All right, welcome to Base Camp Beta episode 122. When 22? 122. We are here at Public Sound Studios again. A wonderful local studio run by dear bud Ryan Woodhull. This place kicks ass. It's always really great to be here. Also here in the absence of Chris Miller, as sometimes happens. He will be missed. But most importantly, we are here with Scott Kiernan and Victoria Keddie. Say hi.
Hi. Hey, great to be here. All right.
We're here.
Scott and Victoria are really institutions in and of themselves individually. And both of you, at some point in time, we will have you back on individually to like really explore and explode your practices. But today, we're thinking of deviating a little from the kind of standard base camp format and really dig into a kind of history and an ethnography of what was ESP TV.
Yeah.
So
we're still trying to figure it out. Yeah. What was that?
Yeah.
It was a dream.
Decade of more work.
Yeah.
I would describe ESP TV as a bit of a if you know institution. Really I mean, so my experience of it at the time, this is late aughts into early mid tens. But you guys continued it through, I think, 2018. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it culminated really with this exhibition that was at Pioneer Works called Work. But we did do also something, after during COVID and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll get there and we'll dig into it all.
Yeah.
But so the project ran kind of for about a decade.
Yeah.
And was really kind of a connecting point for many different New York underground scenes. So I think, we'll be able to kind of branch from ESP TV into covering a lot of cool territory. But yeah, so let's start at the beginning because that's usually a good place to start. How did it begin? What were your kind of thought processes and initial goals going into this project?
Well, I mean, the project started with Scott and Ethan Miller, which I guess you should speak about.
I mean, we had a gallery kind of space in a loft, as happens then. There was a lot of apartment galleries going on then too, and which kind of come and gone.
Then being
more
like
popular, and then like more of them, and then less of them. But
2010, right?
2009, 10, yeah. Into 2011. It was called Louis V ESP because of a broken sign that we had been given in the letter arrangement and some initials. So it was Louis V ESP. And we had like 2 years of exhibitions, kind of like taking it sort of like quasi somewhat seriously in that we were like diligent about doing it every month. But we lived in the back and our performances. And then ESP TV was one performance that kind of happened when TV went digital. And there was kind of TVs on the street, and the signal had gone from being an analog thing to primarily digital.
Yeah, explain to me what you mean by TV going digital.
TV wasn't really broadcast on the, across the airwaves anymore. It was strictly like a digital system. So,
moving from like an
tune the
analog
antenna
send to, yeah. So for like one night, essentially you could pirate local TV stations. Because if you still had the old box as it was, right? Like the old standard cable box, you could still watch it. There was this turnover moment, right? So there was this kind of lag, and this was a unique opportunity to take over
Okay.
for a night.
So
So
it was
this
kind of
was
metaphorical
cool.
too, and literal, but metaphorical. And
Yeah.
so we just did this as sort of like a cable access show in the gallery, and we didn't really have. I mean, I had messed around with this like analog video a bit. At times, like messing around with film when I was a teenager, and then again a little bit in grad school in San Francisco. I went there for a bit and came back. But I wasn't really doing that much, and we had a bit of random equipment. We did this show. A friend and loftmate Lee was longtime cameraman on the show, and he was just running through the crowd with like a handy cam kind of wired. It was just kind of very fun and improvisational. And so it started with that one show, and then we did another one, and Some things were changing with the space and Ethan's kinds of work. So we kind of leaned more into doing, I guess, ESP TV than the physical gallery. It became more exciting.
Before moving forward, there's two things I want to touch on maybe. One, can you talk about just your relationships, both of you, to public access TV? Because this is very much kind of the vibe of ESP TV.
Yeah.
Was like bringing back this like kind of retro early 80s kind of wild open format public access thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering to what degree that like your experiences with actual public access TV ran into that. And the other thing, like I kind of want to just bookmark here, is maybe a brief kind of nod to the Loft era, which feels feels very far away at this point.
Yeah.
I know I said that so casually and like forgot that place is probably like $12,000 now.
Oh, come on, easy. Filled with
in Williamsburg.
Yeah.
Filled with expensive things. Yeah. I guess a good segue is to maybe also bring in how I became involved.
I was gonna
because how I became involved was I was working already extensively with public radio collections. This is kind of where my projects I was working on with kind of more a media archivist side of myself. And I've always been very interested and passionate by public outlets by way of, communication networks, TV, radio, things like this. And of course, how they encapsulate an era, a culture, subgroups, things like this. Political dissonance, things like this. Anyway, so I was kind of working with this, but I also decided that there must be more people out there with my interests in connecting in a certain way, but also with present tense as well as the past, this kind of thing, by using broadcast and transmission as mediums. So I started a festival called the Index Festival, which was at the time, it was 2010, and it was... It sounds so dated at the time, like now, but it's like, working with like hybrid media and like, new technologies, and let's get people together. Yeah.
A different kind of retro.
Connectivity.
Exactly. Yeah. But
at the intersection of art and technology.
You did not use that phrase, I don't think.
We did. Yeah, I did not. No. Yeah. And
it would be okay if you did. It was in the air, so to speak.
Yeah, and I was working with another kind of, I guess, an artist in her own right, Kristen Trethewey as well, with this festival. But I heard about this live TV Loft thing, and I kind of knew you guys a bit, but we actually met once we were in a group show, Scott and I, and that's how we knew of each other's work. And I think I told you to turn your volume down.
It's the start of them.
And you were like, I'm in love.
Friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, turn it down,
all
buddy.
Right, fine.
Yeah. I got
stuff
that
to
do.
Out of me.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so then I was like, all right, we got to bring this in. So I took over. There was this, there's a theater underneath La Mama in the East Village, which is one of the first sound studios. I think The Honeymooners was kind of filmed there. And it has like a really cool history. It used to be a kind of Yiddish theater prior, and just has a very kind of interesting history. It became Millennium Film Journal. And it was half used, very strange, filled with ridiculous ephemera from different time frames. And so I turned that into a kind of space for the festival. And we had, we kind of brought in the cameras and the live environment and really worked with that. And, one thing led to another, but it kind of moved very quickly where it was like, actually, we really kind of realized from that moment on that our brains kind of fused in a fantastic way, really. Mm-hmm. And we were like, all right, we got to keep this going.
It's on.
Yeah, it's on. It was like, okay, go. Yeah. And we both had our collections of trash, essentially. So from different eras, different times, different kinds of explorations. Mine was a little more radio-centric. Yours was more video-centric. And then they started to just build and build and build and build. And we just kind of hacked into stuff and just brought our gear together and just started going. Yeah.
Developed kind of quickly. I mean, I mean, my original cable access stuff would have been probably as a teenager. There was definitely this guy down the block who was the older brother of a friend of mine, and he was a bit of an entry point to some weirdo music at the time. But being in many like Residence-esque kind of negative landy kind of noise bands with masks on, doing a cable access show in a garage. I don't think I even like really understood that we were doing that at first, and then I like started to get a hang of it. Like, so there was like this fun experience with that at some point way back in our brain, and we had known a bit of history of New York cable access stuff when we were originally doing it. I mean, I remember even before we got to work with you, I think we tried to ask you to be on the show, but then you weren't able to.
Like,
when you asked us, then we were working together on the Index Festival, and that was really when I really kind of went to a different.
So you grew up in the New York area, is that right?
I grew up in Jersey. Yeah,
okay.
My family's from here, but I was born in Jersey.
So
Jersey
you were
Shore boy-ish.
Okay, where?
Asbury.
Well, Howell. I mean, yes, Asbury, someplace people know, but I was Brick and Manasquan would be places people know.
Okay,
I was born. I lived in Howell.
Shout out to Manasquan.
I lived in Howell. Yeah, Manasquan, if you're listening.
We got two callers. Yeah,
side of Route 9.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in the Ocean City, Atlantic City area.
Okay, it's farther down. Yeah.
I actually spent okay, maybe we're going off topic
or
not.
Off topic is on topic. So.
Yeah, no, for like a few years of my life, very young, I was down in Sea Isle City, which is really around Ocean City.
Okay.
That thing. My father was working in Atlantic City with building these casinos. It was part of this kind of thing he was doing. But and so I was there for like a little bit.
Have you seen the movie Atlantic City?
No.
That's good.
Is it?
When's it from?
Mid 80s, but it's about it's about the building of Atlantic City.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess no, I shouldn't. Anyway.
I can't remember who
I
can't remember who directed it now or who's in it. It's great though.
Yeah. I would imagine certain people that I don't see are in it.
Sorry. Back on off topic.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about that, but being in that area, a good thing was immediate proximity to the city, like bus at the end of the block.
Right.
That was a big deal. So very, very good.
But so you were sort of exposed to the kind of heyday of New York public access?
No, because I wasn't really seeing it as a child in the 80s, but there was some stuff in the 90s. But there was also just like weird stuff in Jersey. Yeah. But we know of the history of some of it for sure.
Got it.
Yeah. Where were we anyway?
We were talking about our beginnings.
Yeah.
In high school, I was in the AV team.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
They had a TV studio in our school.
We actually would do projects like this.
Yeah. It's like 3 cameras set up. I remember
I enlisted
2 decks with a controller, VHS.
Yeah. I think I almost got the substitute teacher fired, though, because I asked him to come on as the weatherman and give him a script, and it was really bad and strange. Yeah. I remember I really got in trouble. I almost got like, I don't know, kicked out of school or something.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it was really for nothing. I just it's comedy, people. What's the matter? Anyway.
I definitely remember there being like the first Avid video thing I ever it took to make a circle wipe. You had to wait overnight, and you'd come back and the spiral wipe was maybe done. That was sort of a weird video, leaning in towards the video gear kind of
How did that moment feel?
Moment. It felt amazing to see the spiral wipe. I remember people being there oh man, if I could just do this at home, edit video at home.
Yeah.
That. I remember.
Well, there's something to be said about duration and process, right?
Oh yeah.
Immediacy is, it's a thing, but maybe it's not always the best thing. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I need to wait a day for a circle wipe though.
No. I'm not saying it's a great thing. It was a great thing in 1995 or 6.
Tomorrow. Yeah. So anyways, So anyway, we got started. We brought our skill set with us to the table and just decided to experiment live. I think one of the things that fuels both of our practices and fueled our collaboration was this kind of live variable and how much energy that has and contains, right? And also, anything can happen and that it's invited, going off script or being off script or having no script, playing with conceptual ideas or playing with what if situations and scenarios, and allowing other people to join in that space is I mean, it's wonderful, in a real true sense of the word. I mean, it feels freeing. It feels, that there's real ideas that are kind of going into practice. And it's fun too. And I think there's this real aspect of play that when you actually hold that with value and don't think of it as, oh, this is stuff to toss out or this, then it takes on something else entirely. And you realize maybe how much control you're putting into things or how much life you can actually, be refusing in that kind of hyper-controlled setting, So this is it was really nice to play. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the vehicle of like a television show, I think definitely what we were feeling like then was that it was a way to bring together people, especially people who like wouldn't necessarily be on the same bill or something or perform together, because you have not just the fact that we wouldn't have minded mixing that up anyway, but there's these other ways to be involved. Like you can make like somebody's performing like live television bumpers, somebody's doing something that's sort of in collaboration with us visually, but also sound. Like we could blend. It wasn't such a stage, go to see a show kind of thing.
Right.
Which means that you could make different people from different kinds of parts of a larger, I don't know, scene or whatever, be working together, and it would work. It would be great.
Yeah, I guess something I wanted to ask here was like the kind of nature of both the kind of like DIY ethic that runs through this whole project, but also how that is situated within a kind of broader sense of sociality, and the ways in which you consider the project means of connecting different kind of different spheres. Do you have any thoughts on any of those kind of questions?
I mean, I definitely, like kind of what I said. I remember consciously thinking that the same people are always being grouped together all the time.
Right.
And didn't really want to see that the same way. I mean, had interest in lots of things. The DIY aspect of it was a sort of a necessity, but also it's sort of the upbringing that I was coming from, spiritually or whatever.
Yeah.
Experience-wise.
No,
that's the kind of things I was into. Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Spiritually.
Tell us about the spiritual side of it.
I mean, that's sort of
Yeah.
spiritual. Fuck it.
Yeah, I don't know.
There
I don't
you
know the
go.
word for it. I need
Okay.
more coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it also presents like a different metric, right? So when you're coming from a place where people are working in different ways and with different stuff, and your mind works in a kind of place where you're threading between this point, this node, this, that, it makes a lot of sense. And then you go into this other way of being, and then it becomes very hyper controlled again, very much rests itself in category, and it doesn't really speak to the language of, if we're saying DIY, but also really essentially a kind of community, a creative community.
Yeah.
And so working within that and kind of presenting the creative community back to itself or something like this, felt like there was more of a logic playing out too, or it made more sense, I guess, to be kind of in that space. This idea that something, quite often was the case that it would be, the same group of people or something like this, but presented by maybe said curator, said institution that never really showed up, to any place, that wasn't really there going, this, it's like, oh, check this box, right? And, this tends to happen. And I think a lot of people, call things in, but I do think there are a lot of people also who are going, oh, wait a minute. You have to be on a pulse to feel it, And I think that's, when you have more of that or you try with that, I think a lot of artists who are working in different roles, are trying to kind of articulate this kind of space and this kind of community. So this was kind of, I think that speaks to at least the DIY. We can talk about then, I think it's different space now. But I think maybe these same issues are still present too, I don't know.
Yeah, it's also just like ways of working that still kind of working similar. I mean, it's like you just want to, there's immediacy you have if you can work freely and put things together in any way that you want and work spontaneously and solve your problems without, having to go through other structures for better or for worse. I mean, there's bad sides of that too, but I guess I'm rambling about the actually doing it. making. I guess it's more like the thing of like when I've had to say, for example, when we both have taught or something, and students are like, how do I meet people and like learn how do I find out about them? Like, start a thing, start a space, start a space. Like,
just do it.
Just do it in your house.
It is amazing though how that has shifted. I feel like even when we're talking about the beginnings, right? Oh yeah, I was in my friend's like basement and we were messing around with stuff or whatever, and we were doing this or we tried this, and even the loft art days or whatever we're talking about in this kind of earlier moment in New York. It was like these were spaces to transform. And in speaking to a lot of like younger generations of students, that it's amazing how much that doesn't feel explicitly like welcome or like of course you do that. It's like, oh, how do we do this? So there is there is a shift for sure. Yeah.
Right. No. I mean, it's funny in the post-COVID era, particularly. It seems like I was talking with a friend who was a teacher as well, and we were kind of commiserating over how, as a teacher now, you kind of have to reteach a generation how to throw a basement show. Like, this is like now a lost art. Yeah. And I think that's interesting that we've kind of invoked in discussion already immediacy in a kind of twofold nature. One, the kind of like pitfalls of the immediacy of the digital, which has come at the expense of the immediacy of the physical in some way.
Yeah.
But
there's got to be there's definitely a lot happening, in this town and many cities and towns and whatever, that there's this kind of counter to that. There are, there's, you show up and there's like a PA system at the end of like a block here, for example, and everyone's playing like amazing, like, rah, just sounding out, So this is like, okay, all right. The kids are all right.
No, people want to do stuff. It's just expensive.
Yeah, it's like if things are too expensive, then fine, go to the street, right? If things are here, go somewhere else. I mean, this is,
they can.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough being in a kind of megalithic city that presents itself in a kind of hierarchy of wealth and excess, frankly. And it's just it's a shame that the city is kind of gone to that proportion, but hopefully there's still more life in it yet. It transforms.
There's always stuff. There's always stuff.
Of course, like,
so like y'all said. There's one other one little thing that strikes me as maybe a kind of interesting productive tension to kind of pull out here, and maybe I'm like maybe this isn't interesting or useful, but you were speaking, both of you, about the again, this kind of immediacy of live performance and live broadcast. The show also functioned. It had this kind of like archival and documentary function as well. So I was wondering,
doing it long enough.
I was wondering how those two faces of this thing fit together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we ever, at some point after doing a bunch, we probably had an idea of how many we would do, but definitely in the beginning didn't know we would do it as many episodes as we did, for example. But after a while, started to realize that this is an archive. Yeah, it is. It's an archive of a time, place, certain modes of activity. Some people that were on the show, that was their first show ever, and some of them have gone on to they still are going and doing great things. That probably wouldn't necessarily always want to see their first performance sometimes, but it's a great record of a lot of this activity by just it's not just by the act of doing it over and over again, because we could have done a bunch of crappy shows and I think it wouldn't be like great. So it's what we did, but it's that we did it for a long time, and we did it kind of. I mean, for a while there, we were, I don't know, we were doing like shows every 2 weeks or something.
It was pretty frenetic. Yeah.
Which was like doing an ESP TV show was us like, it was manually dragging like lots of heavy, setting up a set, trying to do something different. Like it was always took a lot of energy, but we were energized by it.
Yeah, but I'm going back to, and I guess we should mention that this was a mobile project, right? We didn't have a fixed physical space. So it didn't stay in the apartment, for example, the loft. It went everywhere. It went on the road. It went into spaces.
I was going to say, one of the ones I played was at the schoolhouse for sure.
That was a really early one. We did it twice there, but they were both early ones.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a great show, by the way, Sean.
Thanks. I was very drunk.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember, but
well, luckily we have it on tape for you to watch and play it back now.
They're all available. That's probably like episode, I don't know, what is that, episode 6 or 7?
Yeah. But I mean, there was intention to document all of this anyway. I mean, I was coming from a place where I was working kind of with archives, and how much even just panning the camera to capture the audience mattered, capturing people walking in and out of a space, capturing the in-betweens, the transitions. These kind of moments may seem kind of like, okay, maybe this isn't the most interesting shot, but looking back at it, you really start to capture an environment and that kind of activity, that fast pacing, that stuff, that running around, that tripping on cables, that all that stuff, right? And that it becomes an encapsulation, right? And so that it's really beautiful to look back and see that kind of documentation. Well,
let's talk through like some of the early episodes. Like practically what they were like. Also, like some early highlights, perhaps performances. We do not need to talk about any of mine.
Well, no, this is good,
but no, like what were some highlights in the first couple of years?
Oh, this also maybe reminded me of a cable access reference. We should Bradford, our first host, Mary Boom,
of course,
Bradford Nordine.
Yeah,
was Dirty Looks
Shout
out in
out.
LA.
Mm-hmm.
Was the original host, sort of, with his. It was definitely a nod to Robin Bird.
Yeah.
Like a conscious nod. Mary Boom was a combination of Mary Boone, the gallerist, and Robin Bird from the cable access lore. Bradford had sort of fake tanner on and was very much a character that would kind of interview the performances in between. I definitely remember one of the better ones. Well, a really good early one, or memorable early one for me, was one that we did with Zeno and Oaklander at Present Company, and kind of started like a lone friendship with Sean and Liz, and that was like you, me, Ethan. I feel like it was a really great taping. I really enjoyed.
I think there was also live masturbation going on at that show.
That might have been.
There was nudity.
Nathan, I remember there was streaking at the schoolhouse.
I think someone was sticking something up their ass.
People like to do things
I remember
on the live
this,
camera.
right? I can't remember who it was.
Oh no, that was that. I remember who that was.
Right?
And that was a second tape. That wasn't the same one as. I think that was the one with Franco Falsini when we had experimental.
Right, but it wasn't Franco that did that.
No, it was Future Blondes who did that.
Right. Oh, okay.
Oh, well, that checks out.
But it was like a new.
Just a given.
Yeah, it was like, who's this new member? Anyway, that happened. That was a lot of fun for the audience.
Lots of fun things. That
a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All ages. So there were some good ones.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that show with Zeno and Oaklander. We were really excited to work with our new jazzy video gear. We were
which wasn't really that jazzy, but it was
Signal Stew.
I think because I felt like that was one of the ones where we were mixing together too, like more, and it was just we had like this is like getting more interesting. Like we were visually
working,
interesting than it's sort of like a fun. It was just going somewhere else.
So what was the kind of division of labor between you two and the rest of the crew? Were one of you more on sound and the other on video? Were you both on video?
No,
we were both on. I want to say everything.
Yeah, everything. I mean, we would set the thing up. I mean,
honestly, it was like we would take turns and kind of like, there's like, there only can be one person essentially calling the shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the camera at least. But we weren't really doing that anyway.
We didn't really
because there would be certain ones we would be able to do, later. But really, when it was time, it was like, all right, can you just let's just capture what you can. There's like this kind of brief, and then just to describe this table, we always had a long table. And we would have things daisy chained, of course. And we would have a mixing console. We would have some sort of an effects, let's just say from a range of different versions of video effects from, the analog era. We would have a kind of 50 to 70 situation of working with sound, but as a kind of video signal. We would be working with camera feedback, so we would also have some monitors as well on hand to play with that, and maybe even some flashlights and other lighting to introduce to it, and and just stuff that we found that we were like, how does this work? Let's try this out.
Units, and then we found
other
weird things.
So things would just keep going down down this chain. So when
orders
someone's mixing, someone else, or let's just say I'm mixing between the cameras, which is its own experience, right, as we know, and then you're working with effects, or the next one is like, all right, for this we'll switch, or we'll do this, and then maybe we also have to run over and like guard the board, or we ask a friend to do that, and then there's like a bottle of whiskey that we almost knock over, which is always there, as we're going. I mean, it's just, I'm just visualizing this thing, if you will, and maybe water under the table. Yeah.
That was wired like a little different. I mean, we were evolving a system, like different systems each time. We were trying to figure this, how to make the stuff look.
But we were always running. I feel like, it's a good, I mean, you're like paper thin. Well, whatever. I don't need to talk about weight, but we were always running by each other as well, to always go out into the room,
the camera,
and then come back. And so I can imagine that watching us must have been either exhausting or hilarious or both.
Yeah, I mean, it had this kind of like,
like
amplified theater
all of this
thing, like
gear
television
and us just running
on.
around. This is its own thing, right? There's a performance in that, I guess.
Yeah, I can say like having witnessed said table.
Yeah.
Y'all seemed about as much of the performance as everyone else.
Yeah,
that was definitely part of the point for us. This is as important as what's happening in front of the camera. Everyone's in the mix here, including us,
But that perspective was not captured so much.
Sometimes the camera would turn towards us. There's a few. Probably not enough. I think you wanted to do that more.
I wanted to do that more.
And
we did.
We didn't always get to it, but we got to it later for sure. I mean, formalized it quite a bit, a few different times. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't formalize it as well in the beginning. It was more chaos then.
I was like looking at this as it's on, like this goes in the archives. Like, look at this table. Look at this. Look at this mess. Yeah. But it was, it's just, anyway.
You both use the word find in terms of finding equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Finding it, literally finding it, or finding it, finding what it wasn't supposed to do also, but definitely just physically finding people who
finding it and finding out.
Didn't know why you'd want it.
Oh, I like that as a distinction.
Yeah.
Finding out.
Yeah. No, it's great to work with equipment in unorthodox ways. And that is something that's definitely continued in my own practice. It's definitely continued in your practice too, I'd imagine. Not to speak for you, but, I can see, And so for me, it's like, like how I want to work with this differently. And one of the things that kind of raises my hairs on end is when anyone wants to tell me how something works. Now, I want to learn, right? And so it's not like, oh, but there is something to be said of like, okay, look, I have a manual, I get it, but I want to try this out differently, and I want the space to explore something. And I think I wanted to bring that up because I do think that with all the technology that we are working with today, we're kind of guided with more and more of a heavy hand into an end product, how it looks, how it sounds, et cetera. And for me, it's like, wait a minute, no. I want to either hack into this, I want to break it down, I want to build my own, I want to counter, right? And I think that, that spirit of finding, right? Finding and finding out.
Sure.
With analog is you can break it open, you can get a little shock, put some rubber on the floor and just go, like see what this does. With like going into, more digital born or even emerging technologies, or even just working between the two, there's an expansiveness to this, right? You can use this in a wildly different ways, different conglomerations, different versions of this, that, and that, right? So this is kind of, for me, like going in and saying, okay, how do we make these different systems speak? Or what is that conversation space between the medium,
My dear teacher, friend, Ron Quivola, says of the combination.
Hi, Ron. Love Ron.
Ron is very special. We had him on the podcast. So
nice.
Worth checking out, because any conversation with Ron is a trip.
Yes.
His great line on combining digital and analog is you get subtlety for free, which is just the most Ron thing to say. But,
very nice. Nicely put. Yeah. Yeah. I had the wonderful opportunity of kind of spending time with him. I was working kind of in a team with this. We were working a David Tudor piece.
Of course.
At Bowerbird. And has spent time with Ron, and yeah.
Oh, that was the recent thing, yeah?
It was somewhat recent. Yeah, I guess that was a few months ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something we can cover in greater depth when we have you on a proper. Right now, we still have a task at hand.
We do have a task at hand.
So let's keep tasking.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, this is the digital immediacy, but there's nothing more immediate than getting shocked or like just working with a live signal. I mean, for sure, turning
Wait, so how
a pot
often
on an oscillator is like it's a lot more immediate to me than having to,
Were you shocked on air? You said shocked, like
yeah,
been shocked before.
Yeah.
I mean, on
These
air,
were
like
powerful.
Several times at Transpicos at the one time. I don't know, one show. I don't know what was going on that day.
Well, a lot of the spaces also, it's like dirty currents too, right? And
Yeah.
so you're kind of working, learning, and then we're like, oh yeah, power conditioner. Whoops.
Yeah,
Why don't we have that, or something like this? We were baby steps,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, let's take a step beyond the baby steps.
Okay.
What did mid-era ESP TV look like? I know you did become a nonprofit at some point. So if you want to talk a little bit through the process of nonprofitizing.
Yeah, that was a weird decision.
Later thing for the residency of the van.
It was really to sustain ourselves too. We were working, we say DIY, where we're kind of making this thing on our own time, labor of love, right? But there was this necessity to want, to cover costs, right?
Of course.
And especially also for people to come on, right? And to be a part. Labor is important. One's own labor, other people's labor. This is just something that's essential, right? To try and more than consider it, to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, it felt like, how do we do this? I think we might have to get nonprofit status so we can try for some grant funding or fiscal sponsorship at first, right?
Yep. In
order to get the next step. And so we went through that process, kind of scratching our heads the whole way, being like, are we an organization though? We're not, how do we, what? So there was a lot of back and forth. I remember this of being like, do we do this?
Yeah.
Because the project isn't really a nonprofit organization, but this, opens up, right, opportunities for funding. And so that's kind of how we did it. And we did get funded through.
Yeah, I mean, that helped with
that.
there was the residency program thing that started with Unilever with the van. And that was helping that a bit.
This kind of happened before. Yeah. But we didn't really get so much,
No, we didn't.
Because we also didn't, to be fair, the mid-era was fighting for funding or finding funding. There's a lot of finding. Trying to get funding, but also...
finding out.
Yeah, finding and finding out. But also that we were still frenetically working. And that creative process was so much of a priority for us that our time was really being pulled thin. This is true. Trying to find funding while we're also trying to explore technologies. We're also needing to go get a space. We're also putting together stuff. We're building programs. We're da-da-da-da. So it was how many caps are you going to wear? You know, kind of a situation. And we were doing really cool stuff, but we were doing stuff that we kind of were like, wait a minute, are we exhausted? And let's focus on what we want to do. So there was a little bit of okay, what can we do next? What can we focus on? And this does bring us back to the van too, where we decided, well, we are a mobile-based project. Let's go on the road. So we procured a news van on eBay. And we had a friend, JJ Stratford in LA, test drive the van for us. And then the van was driven back over by this kind of broadcast broker guy to Pittsburgh. So we kind of mapped out places around the U.S. Quite like a big circle, like a big oval. And we met him outside of a Jiffy Lube in Pittsburgh, got the car tuned up, and then hit the road.
Where all great journeys begin.
I hit the road for about 8 hours before
there was a serpentine belt situation and the Dixie Highway.
At midnight in Tennessee?
It was Kentucky.
Kentucky, sorry.
And it was the Saturday before Easter Sunday in rural Kentucky. But anyway,
down the road.
So every city and in between was a learning experience. But this was taking it on the road. But I bring this up to also exemplify that was a very unique project, right? That took our attention in a different way. And we worked with different, with a gear that we installed inside of the van. And, it was a different model.
Studio,
Yeah.
I mean, when we set up with, I mean, before all even the tour, I mean, there was the shows with Storefront for Art and Architecture. We set up a whole studio in their basement.
That was really cool.
For 3 months. There was a Museum of Art and Design residency for several months. You were also at that one.
Yeah. We can cue the footage now.
Yeah, we're these things let us bring people together. And
I was even drunker at that one.
Yeah. I was inebriated. Yeah. I like that we're going back into basements too. I mean, with the Storefront, we were under the floor.
We were. You could climb up
in this little, like you
floor.
had to go down a little. What is it? Like it was like
a hatch.
It was a hatch.
Main floor to the basement.
Yeah, and we kind of built their broadcast.
Yeah.
Station, and we covered kind of everything. We were like, well, what's on broadcast, or what's on TV, or what are the models, of presenting in different ways. So we did this kind of like live camera in the crowd, iteration. We also had a cooking show that
quiz show.
I hosted. We had a quiz show, like we had a game show. We had like all of these different.
Then there was just kind of a free form performance with Georgia. Remember?
Yeah. Anyway, there was a lot of different ways we were trying more and more than, this is the mid-era, right, of going into the televisual, right? The language of TV, the language of the models of spaces, of the shifting modular spaces, of creating that and working within that. And a lot more with the language in particular.
Yeah, it was more like
and this was something I was really excited about personally.
A little less, as much as we were trying to do something different than like a standard like show, kind of concert kind of show thing, it was going into... We were mixing it up a lot more.
Yeah.
Than maybe we had before in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, my recollection was...
It used to be kind of more like there was just more music stuff. And
right.
It kind of went on that way for a while, and then it started to morph.
Right. It became almost more kind of variety show, which made it even more public access feeling.
It started kind of very variety show, then went away. But then it became like more installate, like the concept of like the weird language we were working with worked their way into what we were making more actively and more visually, I think, more presently.
I'd love to hear more about both of your thoughts on the kind of playing with this as a language.
Yeah, I mean, so definitely the first we mentioned earlier, this separation between, what's happening in front of the camera and what's happening as production, that these aspects of the production could be as performative or as much a performance as what's happening in front of the camera, and they're not really often seen. They're sort of depicted in ways.
Right.
Everybody can envision the look of like sort of what a studio set is like, but the communication that's happening, or if that's not put on display or that's not made important in the content of the making of the thing that you're making.
Right.
We actively did that. Very much so at the work show much later, but we're starting to bring that into the ESP TV episodes. The way attention can be used, like how to address a camera, address that kind of viewpoint. And yeah, obviously like using the aspects of television and putting them back in the space. So one thing obviously with ESP TV, of course, was that you would see the making, you'd see us making it, you'd see what's happening there, like it was a studio set, but you'd see the live composition of what was going on. So all of our mess or mistakes or great moment, like it was all happening there. You were watching the production and seeing the result immediately right next to the person who's performing.
Right.
In this sort of weird synthesized, plasticky kind of strange way.
Yeah. Was there like an aim to this kind of revealing of the seams?
I think for me, it was... it wasn't so much even that it's trying to articulate it out to an audience or a receiver. It's more of a kind of live exploration that was going on, of going, okay, well, if we are presenting process, which indeed we are, because that's what we're doing, what are all the components of this, and how can we dive deeper into these? And whether it is through the actual language of production terminology and the inherent kind of strange language that's presented, as well as gender biases and things like this that are, intrinsically part of that language, going in and exploring the absurdity, right, that's present in this kind of directive production speak. There's that, there's also, the language of a closed circuit, right, like a space, and the language of a broadcast, right, like audience universe, right, going out into the universe, out into the ether, right, whoever is watching, whoever's listening, and those are different ways of transacting, but they're all happening like simultaneously, right? And so these kinds of mechanisms are like all parts, like they're all like articulations of this kind of broader language going on of kind of broadcast-based production, or existing and, maybe even feedback in real fields, something like this, right? That you're projecting out and it's coming right back in this kind of way. But I think, so I think going into those different areas was important. And I think we learned a lot, and I think also we learned a lot about our own craft and things like this too. But that this felt like the next step anyway, as we're building and exploring this medium, with so much time invested in it, of why not go deeper, right, into the process. So that's kind of, where we went. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, well, I guess like the next step would
except
be...
for Scott and his spiritual journey.
No,
still on it.
But that,
I guess one quick nod, Scott. I saw you doing live video just 2 to 3 I can't remember what day it is, but Monday night over at a basement, and was firsthand reminded of the highly performative nature of your practice, and how that does really feel as much a part of the space and the stage as anything happening on stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely, and that's linked to ESP TV too. Is that
Right.
it says, you can put images behind performers, that's one thing to do, or can try to make something happen in real time and make a new thing as it's happening. So it's like that is, I mean, ESP TV has definitely influenced that side of things that I'm doing too. So for sure, I mean, it wouldn't be, it's all the same process and never stopped, so it's just better at doing certain things now.
And sometimes you get worse at doing them.
I would tell you worse at certain things, for sure. No, there's things I feel like
as long as you don't stay the same, right?
Yeah.
Just don't stagnate. Move somewhere, deeper water, or go on shore.
Pure repetition is always impossible. So.
Oh, sure.
But no, I guess we can take another half a baby step forward.
You were kind of like going. We're bouncing in between the first 5-6 years, and then
I will
the
say,
tour, the big tour.
In this kind of extension of this kind of feedback process, there was this fun moment. So I'll just bring it up because it is fun. That we not only aired on M&N Network, so this was a cable access, actual cable access network in Manhattan, and we did air episodes on there. So we were actually a cable access show.
So no more live masturbation at that point.
Yeah. Well, it was on there.
They will allow a lot of things. They just won't allow. There's one thing that they won't allow, which doesn't make sense. Their definition is.
When there is an interesting freedom in spaces where no one's watching, right? No one who has control over censorship is paying attention. Therefore, it becomes more of a viable medium. Just saying, hey, get yourself a program, people. Anyway, we had this cable access network program on the show. But what we also did was we would go and gather people together, friends, to watch these episodes as they played back on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. At this one bar that I used to really like and frequent, and took Scott on a date there, I think, once. Because I used to like going there and just watching everyone leave. It would be lawyers, people who just got out of jail, and judges all sitting at the bar together at like 5 p.m. And I was just like, this is fantastic, this space.
I think I went by one or two of those.
Yeah. But then, so we would go there. They meant it. I asked them. They said yes. So we were like the crazy, kooky. You guys were like all on LSD or something with your videos.
It's like what? It's like I'm watching the Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Yeah.
I'm tripping.
Walter, Champagne Joe, and Little Joe loved us, and we would go there and just that was a kind of nice moment.
But that was people, but we didn't like overload them. I guess it was like enough.
It was nice too because we also saw that there was again another moment where a physical space mattered, even watching the TV as an extension of this experience. And so there's just this kind of it's interesting, right? Like, how much can go out and then be brought back, and we go out and we be brought back, through this kind of method of broadcast. It was very cool. Very nice.
Yeah. I wanted to miss that aspect of when I missed that place, but that was people getting together to watch television in public and it's not necessarily a disaster, was a strange thing. And not sports.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Kind of.
Yeah.
You got to tell me what was the difference between Champagne Joe and Little Joe?
Well, Little Joe
Was big?
Little Joe was not that little.
No, not really. Walter's the one
Little Joe was never little.
Yeah, that's why he's Little Joe.
What's so cool? Yeah,
what was
course,
big, I remember, was the rat
Champagne
that fell
Joe
off the ceiling.
Yes.
That
There
time.
was, okay, sorry.
That's
But I
a
mean,
fun story.
that was insane. And the other time, remember I went back behind and was just like bartending and singing?
Yeah.
They let me do that.
There was
I don't
this
know
time
why.
watching it once when the bar was a corner and there was a drop ceiling or whatever. And
Oh my God,
a rat
that
the
was
size
crazy.
of a house cat just fell out of the ceiling, hit the bar. It was like stunned and
We
like
didn't know
ran
what
down
to
the
do.
entire length of the bar. And I'm sitting in the middle there, and you were sitting in the middle there, and the calamari plate, and Walter's behind. Rat just jumps over the calamari, and Walter's like, didn't happen.
I think Walter just laughed and made more martinis.
He kind
at
of,
that
but he
point.
acted like it didn't happen.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
obviously,
whatever.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Fun times.
Played it off.
Fun times. But
That was the
where
that
are
was
we
the fun
going?
of
Where are we
that was
going
the
right
fun
now?
of ES watching
We're
ESP
going
TV
down
at
memory
480s.
lane is
Yeah.
where we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes. But
Okay,
fun.
so anyway, yeah, we're talking about
What were we talking
show progress.
Yeah, just we
Yeah.
can
Stuff.
keep it, like inching forward to inch
And
backwards.
there's so
to
many
inch
people who
forward.
are on the shows, so it's kind of like, I can remember just like different shows that were great on tour, like, and people who still work, like the Mesher show in Portland was great. Still do things with them. I'm sure you have like favorite ones. LA. was a good one. San Francisco was great with Shana Moulton.
I don't have necessarily favorites of singular performances. I have to say,
favorite
when
tapings.
I think when I think about because I can see,
This
I'm
one's just
following
worked out
you.
in
Yeah,
some great way.
like that kind
Yeah.
of feeling and that synergy, like totally right with the
So
ones you're saying.
just to be clear, we're talking about the mobile ESP TV era. Yeah.
It was always mobile, but it was just like
I mean the this
the
is the
van.
transnational
a
transcontinental.
transnational organization
Yeah.
of ESP
This is
TV.
when we moved into a corporation. Okay,
The
yeah.
show did get
But, yeah.
syndicated on cable access.
Yeah. Somehow.
Weirdly.
For example, okay, so
Yeah.
that was kind of fun. In an earlier iteration, though, we realized that we had to do public service announcements, and so this is kind of fun. So we started a program that was working off of public service announcements,
Yeah,
and that
that's the show.
I kind of always liked that too because we were working with. Well, first of all, we had to do it. I mean, as a cable access, you have to have some sort of public service announcement, and at certain points, and how many a year or something like this, right? But it was really nice to bring, again, that part of the language of cable access as, okay, how do we do this or work with this in an interesting way? We can always say, like, make sure you brush your teeth, or something.
Right.
But, like, can we do something else with this? And I think we went and took that into, like, a really cool spot.
Yeah, push them into
place.
abstraction.
And we also brought that in later on when we did this show, again, at Pioneer Works called Work, where the programming was all, like, we had one that was all about motivating your work, the workplace. So we had like, our kind of guru and stuff like
Lifestyle
that, like
guru,
lifestyle
Ian
guru.
Hatcher.
And, we had
See, it is a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
I would
But this was kind of
I
fun
would
because
say
it's playing off of all like stuff that's present that you go, okay, how do we work this in or weave this into the kind of overall framework? Yeah. It's very cool. And also the spaces themselves presented room for doing a lot. Whether it was a loft, whether it was a schoolhouse, whether it was in a museum that, the staff are going, what did we do? How did we say yes to this? And blew a fuse. Or, there's different spaces that had these really cool variables that when you're there and you're working live, you're like, oh, yeah, wait a minute. Something's happening in this space. And I like that. And I think that really got me to like tune in. Pardon the pun, but to tune into the spaces themselves and working with so many different spaces that they became more and more of an active variable, less of, oh, these are walls we're just working within. Right. And that to me has kind of shaped a lot, of where I am now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think along that whole way, I mean, we were honing the tools that we were using too, for sure. Learning a lot, learning how to mess with it, and then the van itself became one giant instrument that we were driving around and could be put to different
It became
use.
our studios too at different times. Yeah, I had it for a while. I was like in a field, got stuck, but it started a project. It was always inspirational.
Yeah, I want to hear more about the van and the van moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we were saying before it got, we started the tour, it got ditched on the side of the road. We had to figure out how to get that fixed for a while. And then, we went around the country doing, I don't remember how many shows it was, but that was a whole kind of U.S. tour in a big circle.
It was a little exhausting.
Yeah, it was a lot. And the van kept kind of, like, we don't know, well, this actually leads to, the thing kept dying. The battery just would die, and we didn't know why. Nobody could figure out why the battery was, because it had a lot of electronics that were in there to run
it was
giant
a
mast.
modified van.
Yeah, it was a television news van. Properly.
During our tour, we were actually modifying it or bringing it back to its original state through weird mechanic visits, in different states and whatever, right?
Yeah.
It was very Frankensteinian, right? So it was like, okay, the thing was already, a beast. And then it was falling apart and we had to kind of patch it together. And we're like, let's bring it back. Let's do this. So we learned a lot.
So you were de-Frankensteining this
Yeah,
Frankenstein
and
van.
building-
Then Frankensteining it again.
Yeah,
Amazing.
exactly.
Making it more our Frankenstein than the
I think
Frankenstein
so.
of corporate news.
Yeah.
I-
yeah.
Since David Lynch passed, I've been on a hardcore David Lynch retrospective reappraisal. I rewatched Straight Story for the first time in 30-ish years.
Nice.
Or 28, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of Straight Story now.
Yeah.
Van's breaking down.
Van's breaking down.
You're on the riding mower.
We had
We
a snap
had-
serpentine belt, the bad gas.
Well, in Lordsburg, we
Austin.
had someone was laying
the taxi
nails
tire.
all over the road. So we had our tires, and it's a very, very small town. I think this was in Arizona.
Arizona or New Mexico. I think
It was right at the
Arizona.
border, I think, and extremely small town. But the only business was tire repair.
Right next to the
It's like,
harbor.
well done,
Yeah.
well played. Yeah. So there was that.
The gas station by in Tennessee or wherever we were. We definitely got just corn liquor.
Oh,
in
but
the
you
gas
were
tank.
so dramatic. I remember
Because it was
this.
covering the whole back of the van. I was
Let's
sitting
just
in
say
it. It
there was a lot
full
of sulfur.
Exhaust.
And I'm driving because,
No.
I tended to have to do that. But no, it was actually a messed up thing. Like Scott didn't have his license, and we
one.
had
I'd
get
given it
one.
up a long time ago.
And he had the world's worst driver teacher, or the test. He was just a horrible man. And I just remember this, but it was
test.
we had to get the license before going on this tour, right? Because we also knew we had a crazy news van, and it wasn't a real commercial license. We were already kind of we're going to get pulled over. Let's cover our bases, whatever. And I just remember that situation of him not passing you over something really ridiculous because of course you were a good driver, but anyway, so he
stuff at the same time. Yeah, but
anyway, whatever. In certain places it was wait a minute, there's a lot of cops.
The van presented a lot of challenges. But
yeah, we were always
great.
We were kind of being pulled over, but more so we were asked what are you doing? Especially with border control, people were like, Are you guys storm chasers? And we'd say, yeah, of course we are,
You liked that.
I loved that. I actually, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a storm chaser. So I feel I was yeah, I'm living my dream. Yeah.
But some of the mistakes with it
We're going to go watch
saved
Supercell.
it because, remember, the battery, the battery not shutting off had this lever, and then somebody tried to steal the entire van outside the show in Detroit.
This was
And then they
this is
didn't
an
update.
amazing story, though, in its own.
Yeah.
This is. We were having breakfast. The van was parked out front.
We had just done a show at MoCAD.
Yeah.
Adult was part of the curation of that, and
Awesome.
Carrie Lauren played, and
Yeah.
Dwayne the brand new dog, and
That was a fun show.
I can't remember everybody in the show, but there was a lot, and it was a great show. And then the next morning,
Well, we were getting breakfast, and who was DJing that breakfast?
I think Mike McGonigal.
Yeah, Mike McGonigal, yeah. And so it was kind of like a DJ breakfast spot, and we were before we hit the road. So the van is right out front, and I don't know what, we just felt, okay, it's safe. Wrong. Mistakes were made. But we go out, and I just see.
It was 2 in the afternoon.
I'm already a little wary, but we look, and I just see 2 legs on the other side of the van. I'm I really hope this guy's taking a piss. Yeah. But no, because we have the side doors on the van. So this kid, he was a kid.
Yeah.
Broke open and was pulling out. Now, had inside of the van for another project that we kept in there. I had all these surveillance cameras inside of it.
We used them at MoCAD.
We did, yeah. That's right, yeah. But I was working with them anyway from this other project. That's right. Yeah. But we had all these surveillance cameras, but it wasn't like they were on all the time anyway, or for the purpose of even watching the van. Yeah. But the kid thought that these were all on. So he pulled all of the surveillance cameras out, these were already like older versions of camera. They weren't a terrible amount of money. And then also decided, looking through all of the material in this van, decided on the heaviest camera that we got like for free that we didn't have a power pack for.
We got the camera from the Walter Reed Theater. We used it once for the MoCAD show. It wasn't worth it.
No, it wasn't worth much.
It was heavy as hell. So
it was so heavy.
Instead of the bag of like the laptops, all the
we had all of this stuff,
expensive stuff he could have taken because he was trying to take the whole van.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got and then he starts running off with the camera, and we chase him around the corner, and he jumps into our car, and like we got off easy, just at that camera, and then
public service announcement: don't ever run after anyone.
I know, but
just let them go. But Scott decided to run. Like,
I didn't know what he had.
And I'm like, stop.
He was wrapped in a blanket.
I'm just like, let it go. But so anyway, that happened. Didn't meet up with him. He was fast with that heaviest camera that I've ever known. But when we went back, I'm like, okay, well, we still have the van. Okay. And I look and I see that the steering wheel is completely missing.
Well, he had hammered through he had gone through the entire ignition. He was trying to hotwire, but he didn't know that we had
the switch
a Frankenstein
on our battery.
kill lever on the battery because the damn battery wouldn't always die.
There's the full circle to that
we had to
switch
turn
situation.
the battery off manually under the hood. So the guy was probably there for an hour trying to. Why is this not going?
Yeah, I mean, really,
and then
ripped the thing off.
I remember, was it Trevor or Brad from you? I remember they were like, I think it was one of them was saying like, they were from there like. Oh yeah, like I know people's dads have just had those already in their car all the time. Because this car would get stolen. Just have it like a kill lever on the battery. It's like he didn't know.
The cool thing was this news van is it's a Ford Econoline E350, and there are a lot of vans like that. And in Detroit, there were a lot. And so when we called this tow guy, he's like, "Oh, we'll get you another steering wheel. Don't worry about it. Like in an hour." Yeah. It was one of these things like no big deal. It happens all the time.
All the
so something that felt like our tour's done, how are we going to get this? We're going to be
trivial.
It was like we're on the road in like an hour. Yeah. Like really, actually. It was kind of crazy.
Broke again.
Well, no, but I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was
anyway.
Always an adventure with the van.
A lot of chance and a lot of fortune, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. Which we hope actually, this does lead to something, right? Like speaking about the experiences here, we were talking about documentation, but also these stories are fun. I mean, I love going down memory lane with this, but they capture a lot. And the more that we speak about them and stuff like this, the more it's like, it would be really cool to have like a book or something like this where we can go, this with this antidote, or this happened here, or here's some stills, or like, I don't know.
You will have a podcast.
Yeah, we will have a podcast, yeah. Thank you, by the way, because this is fun. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's cool. Yeah.
It's absolutely part of our goal with this project.
Yeah. It's great.
But no, I'm wondering just one more thing about this like amazing van era. Like, to what degree like was this? There's something about it that strikes me very much as an attempt to bring this like particularly coastal brand of avant-garde to the heart of America. Do you have thoughts on that? Was that a goal? Was that it, like
linking?
Well, first of all, I think Chicago would be annoyed at that statement. So,
as would Detroit. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
The linking of different places and people that we knew of and spaces. I mean, a lot of some of the shows were in more like a museum-like setting, but most of them were like in kind of DIY kinds of spaces, right. I would say, for the most part. And that was part of the project too, was to sort of have this like linkage, develop a physical network with,
right,
in tandem with the kind of network that we were trying to make through the show.
Well, I think we were kind of not fighting. We were aware of there's the present hierarchy that was situated, right? You start in a DIY space, then you get elevated to this, then you get into this space. And if you make it, you're in a museum or something like this, right? Which is absurd even when you say it out loud, right? It's silly. But so in our way to kind of dissolve that hierarchy, it was like, yeah, we'll do something here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for inviting us. Or, we want to try here. Let's try it. But also we need to go back here, that there isn't a linear path to making this project. And that it is kind of about reinvestigating or looking again at different spaces. And that extended into different spaces outside of what we knew, right? Outside of New York. As well. I mean, we did do a bit overseas as well, but not much, which in hindsight, it's like, oh, that's a shame. But also, we did so much, and it was so New York centric of where we were both living and, breathing the air and whatever, that it felt very much centered here. So, that would have been a whole other thing, to happen, and maybe would have taken it in too many different directions. I don't know, so it was, it was kind of focused here. But yeah, I mean, this connectivity felt like, yeah, of course, we want to connect,
And for us to do a tour, is like we're going to the places, but we're setting up the show in each place, or other people are there instead of just like, a typical tour where you just show up and you play. Kind of, we're organizing all the shows in every place and sort of forming this micro situation, based on our perception of like what's going on in some place that we don't even live in, or like having to talk to people and like maybe we don't know, ask friends or people that we trusted, like, hey, what are you into? Like, what's going on that we also don't know about?
Right.
So there was some share in the, we call it curation, but like organization of things.
A very physical way of connecting, which of course you can see in social media and stuff like this. You can reach out to communities and people in all other places, right? And you go, oh, cool, you're into what I'm into. That's great, easy, right? And that's fantastic. And maybe that's a positive of that outlet. But to physically go and spend time, and okay, yeah, it's not a long duration, but something felt useful. I don't know. It felt, I guess, more tangible in terms of the connection being made. And in some places more than others, and with some people more than, how you kind of interact. But it felt like we were kind of trying at connecting, at building the relationships, not just passing through.
So one of the real kind of aims of this podcast as well is to kind of untangle some of the kind of political economy of art making. In our current moment. And I think, Victoria, what you were saying about this being an attempt to, or an effort at kind of challenging this, presupposed linear path to artistic success is something that I think is really, really, really important and resonant, and even more so in our current moment. I guess, like, I almost want to kind of jump another baby step or 6 ahead to the question of like, how do we continue those kind of efforts in our current moment?
Well, maybe affirm the kind of success, like your definition of success and what you want it to be, might be one big thing instead of the more prescribed ones. I think that would help a lot. And yeah, back to that idea. I mean, I don't know. It's not easy to do just the resources are limited, more and more limited as far as like just existing.
Yeah.
But there's ways to self-organize and make things happen with whatever you've got to work with, however small it is, But yeah, I don't know if it's just like a aspect of being old enough to have a different attitude about some of the ways of how I see like success with art, or maybe where I was coming from. It's definitely not in the most like prescribed path, and have always enjoyed freedom of kind of being able to kind of just make the situation if it doesn't exist. And knowing that I think if you do that, sometimes you do that enough and you do it intentionally enough, other people notice that and want to be part of it. That kind of hopefully makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think there, I think there's certain models that are exhausting themselves, and I think that that's a good thing. We are witnessing like a massive kind of a shutting down of a kind of gallery complex land, right? And these are pretty big galleries. It's happening not just, of course, here in this country, but it is this kind of okay, we're moving on to something else to stash our money in banks right now, whatever. And so with that disappearing, I think there's this opportunity for something else to come forward, and maybe in the spirit of like this kind of in-between space, or maybe, in something that can be built or redirected by way of attention. This is, I think, inherently more interesting than something that is so heavily reliant on high stakes commerce or something, right? Like something like this, So maybe there's room for this as things start to shapeshift. I don't know. I think, greed is a corrosive, right? Variable to anything, and I think that when it's present, people do weird things, And I think when you're in a place to survive, there's this market, there's this other thing, all of that stuff. It's just kind of it's really, you see, how it can change people. You see how it changes scenes. You see how it changes, even the art itself, right? And so, to keep that space for reflection and to really maybe even, spend time within the word and the mechanism of community, I think is always useful to do. And I think that's a wildly creative space and a generative one if we keep feeding, into that, right? Yeah, because otherwise it is exhausting, right? It can be very exhausting to get by. With the project of ESP, for example, we were working and with nothing. I mean, as we said, labor of love. And so, but there was moments where we're like, how do we keep doing this? We can't keep doing this. And we were also frustrated at times with how much we weren't being recognized in certain ways,
fit in
right?
Well into any particular thing sometimes.
Yeah. Not saying that we were looking
used
for
to that, though.
Yeah, but there was something that was like, okay, did that.
Those are my favorite
that happened.
people, my favorite things are the things that
Yeah, I know.
I think that's part that actually kind of is also where I was trying to get to, too.
Yeah,
It's like
there is this
success
thing, right?
is like, I don't know, it's like, does that mean just playing the part of the thing that you're supposed to be doing? That's like, well, why did,
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things you could be doing in life, which are a lot more accepted than this stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to take it that way. So if you're not into things that don't fit neatly into those categories, I don't think you're going to, I don't know. I would imagine you wouldn't want to be doing this for that long unless you somehow have something worked out.
Well, I mean, passion.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no. Yeah. But I know. I mean, I guess I find that to be a trait of authenticity, is like feeling. Sometimes I feel like that, not fitting in completely into one area so neatly,
but
straddling a few different zones.
Sometimes the privileged position of the authentic is one that is occupied by those who also occupy the privileged position, certain privileged class positions. Let's say.
Yeah, exactly.
That's. Yeah, these are these are things that I think a lot of us are still just untangling.
I think people should be a little bit more. I think if we're going to tackle this stuff, we also have to tackle. We brought up labor before. We brought up hierarchy, and there's also, of course, class. But I think to be a little more transparent, even if you're from a place where, look, I've got this assistance, I'm not going to pretend that we're all in this together. We're all in this together if we actually can apply our skill sets and whatever, advantages we have wherever we're coming from, and how we can blend that into actual help, right? This idea that we're all like, oh, no, we're all, in the same record shop. Cool. That means we have the same income. No, right? So, all of these other things, or have, assistance or don't. And I think, there's a lot of people who are, coming from a variety of places, right? We don't just have to talk about class. I mean, there's plenty else to talk about by way of race and everything else. But, to apply your skills or where you're coming from or the advantages you have, and feeding them as tools, and not pretending that this is normal, or everybody's the same here. Because at this point now, there's just too much. Like, everything is very strained and stressed, right? And for example, if you're working class, come on, if we're all working for a living, it's in this city, this in particular, right, which we can talk about. It's kind of a play of absurdity, right? So, I think these things matter to speak about them more within our communities too, and to see how they can be used as tools, right? The things we have.
What we need are more class traders. So
yeah, okay. Let's do it. I think we need more hackers. Yeah.
What do you mean by the hacker?
I think we need, I do anyway. I feel like we need more dismantling. We need more help getting outside of current systems and going into others, and maybe breaking down the systems that have kind of swallowed up our spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Call me.
Well, I think we're doing just about perfectly on scheduling. So
Okay.
let's if we want to just like put a little bow, like the smallest bow on the ESP TV era. Like how did that wrap up, and then of course, how do we want to wrap up? Do you have any final thoughts or words or things that you didn't get a chance to express?
I mean, I guess the last big ESP project was the work project,
Mm-hmm.
the show at Pioneer Works and the programming with that, and that was where breaking down the language into a real formal, in a conscious formal way in which we had moved the office at Pioneer Works, all the staff of the office, down into what was a studio set that we were built on the main floor, and constructed this kind of serialized TV show over 6 weeks as live tapings, but nothing was really scripted to happen. They're just working inside of the show that they're inside of. You could see them, but you couldn't hear anything that they were saying, and you could only hear the dialogue between us and the camera people. So you had this kind of third perspective that on top of all the television that was happening, and it was made improvisationally based on just light coming through a window, some natural reaction, something happening in the room. So where nothing happening could become kind of interesting, and kind of combined with a subtitle scripting language that was changing all the participants in the office with an office etiquette handbook. And so these Dadaistic captions that we could bring up to punctuate live what was happening in the frame. So it was really deconstructive process to making television and making ESP TV, actually, I think.
Yeah,
We
it's like a
deconstructed
Markov
the whole thing.
algorithm,
Right.
So yeah, pairing production terminology with office ethics handbook and
Beautiful.
making that language was really kind of beautiful, and it made it like perfect aha moments, of a running script, and sometimes the way it worked in timing with the actual shot or in the room. But it also did bring labor as well. We were talking about labor again. So here we were talking about work. We're all working. I mean, and everyone there is working, and then there's the audience that comes in and kind of walks around and moves around and isn't really sure what their level of participation is, or where the voyeur stops and where they kind of extend into the field, of course, where the camera is also on them. And I think that was, to me, interesting too, where that starts to break down as well in an exhibition space. I enjoyed that moment, or, as kind of watching through this as well. Yeah.
And I think there was some initial questions is this about surveillance or something? And it's it's definitely not about that, because we made the cameras about as large as we possibly could consciously. So there was no question that they were there, but we weren't trying to, it wasn't about spying on or looking at, it wasn't that kind of a view. It was more, how can you make interest out of the process? The process generates the interest. The interactions, the working together generates the interest. The work.
Yeah, and the
work
language
makes the work.
Yeah, the language of the workplace. Yeah. I mean, we designed it with, I remember typing into browser searches of a contemporary workplace.
Yeah.
What does it look like? What's the furniture? Modern contemporary office furniture, right? So white desk, these kind of ergonomic chairs, the way it's situated as an open workplace. This was that moment, right, for that. But we also designed it to be entirely blue as well, so that
With
we
key
can
props and
work.
stuff. Yeah.
So we can actually work with our language as well, bringing that back in of, okay, since this is a televisual space, right? We can actually disintegrate the walls and create something else. This is the language that we use. This is kind of our kind of working within the space and through the space, right? And we were present as well, right on the same floor, and the control room was just within the office space as well, this office space in quotation marks. And so, it was really, really quite beautiful in terms of all that was transacting simultaneously, right? And then we did make an episodic series, but it would also be broadcast back in the break room, again, quotation marks, where we had a water cooler and, again, contemporary office furniture that was supposed to be there for the office place. Yeah, so that was really... but it was fun.
It also, I mean, we talked about feedback, and of course, it wouldn't be ESP TV without talking about feedback to some degree. But the feedback of operations, which is always was literally part of the signal, that we're working with. But it became much more part of the structure of the show, and that was the attention to the televisual language aspect, which I think was made very present in work. Obviously, what we're talking about, but then also things like the Suzanne Ciani bumpers that would play in the space at the clock.
Yeah, you call them bumpers. Yeah.
The commercials.
Well, they were. Yeah,
jingles.
I mean, but it's bumpers. But these were all commercial jingles. That were used for TV commercials, and so Suzanne, we had turned it into the clock of so every day at 12. You'd hear gluk, 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 gluk,
just go off.
The Coca-Cola
so
bottle.
The space became the live set
would
reflect back on itself again. Because you could kind of almost forget that you were in the set and then something would pull that back in, and you'd hear it really distant because we weren't recording the audio of the people. So you'd hear it over a cameraman's mic kind of thing, or our headset mic.
That's great. That's great.
So sound became very strange in the show.
I really enjoyed that, I gotta say.
And it's great. You'd hear squeaking of something, but it wasn't mic'd. It was through a headset that was ready, camera one, take camera one, whatever you can see on the show. But I think that was this deconstruction, was where we were going towards the whole time.
That's really, really beautiful, and does seem like a great way to put a bow on the project. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk more about feedback because it is so integral to the whole process. Both on a kind of a material level, and then also on the kind of level of performance,
social level, everything, all the relationships, the whole thing. Learning,
our relationship, working together for a decade on a collaboration, right? That's I
learned so much. Learned so much
it's kind of amazing.
Doing that project. Just kind of taught ourselves a lot, and then learned some from others. But I mean, there was projects we should mention the Vetus Perfectus, the Whitney Robert Ashley project with Alex Waterman.
That was another presence.
I mean, especially
especially feels to figure very, very important.
Passed, which is very sad. Kit Fitzgerald was a friend and very supportive of us. Great video artist, Queen of the Fairlight CVI, all through the 80s. Worked with many people. If you don't know her work, you should check it out. It's distributed by EAI. But, she just passed, and it just made me think of that because of the
with the Vetus Perfectus, that was the revisitation of Perfect Lives, Robert Ashley's Perfect Lives. That was at the 2014 Whitney Biennial, I think.
Yeah, I mean, ESP, I think that's the other thing, is that it somehow in the course of this project, it linked us to another generation of people also who were here, many still here, who I think saw some kind of linkage in our attitude with theirs, and took kindly to us and brought us into things and taught us things, gave us some equipment, gave us stuff. Just
very thankful.
We're very supportive. Yeah, I don't that's a huge whole other thing to talk about. Or the linking, between the past and the present. And
I mean, we have
with us.
Well, I guess we have just about 0 minutes. Unfortunately, that would.
It's all always think of things.
So we'll leave the audience to think about that.
It's like the structure of a psychoanalytic session. We're getting to the best thing right
we're
at the
just
end.
about there. And our time is up.
I know. We talked about it a little bit. So
well, Yeah, there's like 10 other topics I would have loved to address too. So, sorry, we won't.
Fair
You
enough.
got to hear about the rat at Forlini's, so that was more important.
Apparently, yeah, that got in there.
Sorry.
So, yeah, no, it's all right. It's all right.
Scott and Victoria, thank you so much. This was really, really a pleasure. Want to suggest to all listeners, Scott, you run the amazing gallery, Various Artists on the Lower East Side. Yep. Victoria, you have an incredible practice. You teach at you're at Penn right now, is that right? Mm-hmm. So all students who are at Penn right now who are listening, sign up for Victoria's class.
Yeah, or run away.
Yeah, you can decide from this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
you should take
thank you again.
Okay.